Greetings, parents. Welcome to our second Parent Tech Hotline. Today, I'll be telling you a little bit about the new screen time features available on the iPads. So, I'm very excited to announce that now these screen time settings have been opened up on the school-owned iPads, so you can help your daughter monitor her screen time while she's at home. So, the first thing you need to know is if you're using this new screen time settings on a personal device, it needs to be updated to iOS 12. Unfortunately, it does not work on an Android device. So they have different types of parental controls you can check out. Keep in mind for screen time limits that the time a girl should be spending on the iPad should match what the school recommends in terms of the time spent on homework. So, for example, if the math teacher is recommending that they spend no more than 30 minutes on math each night, then that's the same time limit to apply when she's using iExcel, the math app. So if she says she needs to spend 2 hours researching the perfect picture for a social studies report, that's probably too much. Before we get started, it's important to figure out two things. One, what you want the passcode to be. This will be a secret passcode that you and only another parent in the household know. If you have two households, or if your daughter travels back and forth between two households, make sure you both know that passcode. The second thing you need to figure out ahead of time is when do you want the iPad completely disabled for your daughter. So figure out ahead of time what you want that shutdown time to be. So here we go. So screen time, there are 4 different categories that we'll be looking at. The first one is turning on screen time. The second one is downtime, which is when the iPad will be disabled except for calling or messaging if you'd like. The next one is app limits. So which categories of apps would you like to limit on the device? Students should not be using any type of social media on the school device unless it's for a specific school project which is approved by the teacher. The next category is which apps you do want to allow during that downtime. And then finally, content restrictions and privacy settings to protect your daughter and to filter out the type of content that she'll be taking a look at on her school iPad.
Turn on screen time by going to Settings and then scroll down about 8 lines to Screen Time. Choose This is my child's iPad. Now choose a start and end time for when the school iPad will be completely disabled. Click on Not Now for app limits. We're going to move ahead and create the passcode. Click Continue, then put in your parent passcode 2 times. Now you've got this great screen with a bunch of information about device use.
To activate screen time, the cool thing is you can see how much time your daughter is spending on the device. I would recommend turning on screen time and not setting any restrictions and just spend a couple weeks monitoring the iPad to see how much time your daughter really is spending on the device, spending on certain categories of apps, and picking up the device or getting notifications. Then you'll have a baseline, and if you want to scale back, you can take it in baby steps. So if you go back to the settings window and screen time, then click on the name of the iPad, and you can see a bunch of really useful categories. Screen time, all apps and categories, most used app, how many times she's picked up the device, what time approximately the device has been picked up, helpful for those middle of the night sneaks, and then notifications. Notifications is super helpful because if your daughter tends to get distracted by notifications, then you can see how many she's getting and you can go back and disable many of those notifications in another window. That was in the last video.
After you've turned on downtime, you can decide which apps exactly you want to be available during downtime. You can't take away the phone, that's always active, but you can take off messages or FaceTime.
In the next video, I'll show you how to set time limits for various categories of apps, and you can also customize your days. So let's say you want to give your child a bit more freedom during the weekend, then you can turn off those limits or increase the time available on those apps on the weekend or Friday night.
Here's how to set a time limit for specific categories of apps. Go back to Screen Time, go to App Limits, and then click on the category you'd like to limit. Click Add, and now you can enter a specific time limit for that category. You can also click on Customize Days if you'd like to have different time limits depending on the day of the week. You can add more than one category at a time.
So the next section is all about content and privacy. This may look familiar to parental controls, which you may have seen on a Mac or an iPhone. So click on Content and Privacy Restrictions. Then you're going to turn it on the top of the screen. So spend some time exploring the different settings and restrictions available in this section. The iTunes and App Store are locked out on school devices, but they aren't on personal devices. So take some time figuring out if you want to disallow your daughter to make purchases on her own or make in-app purchases, which are the advertisements that lure students in to purchase other games or points and can often ring up a huge bill on your credit card. In content restrictions, you can determine what types of music or movies you want your daughter to be able to purchase or download, and then you can also add specific websites that you'd like to restrict her access to. And finally, if you're concerned about your daughter playing online games with people she doesn't know, you can restrict her ability to add friends or play with more than one person on the game center.
That's it. Please feel free to contact me if you have any other questions. Thanks again.